They say a river never forgets. But that night the river remembered too much. The villagers of Anyaba swore they heard it whisper. A low hum beneath the moonlight, calling someone's name. No one dared to answer, except one boy. His name was Kweku, the fisherman's son. He didn't know that when he stepped into the water that night, the river wasn't waiting to wash him clean. It was waiting to take something from him. Something he would never get back. His memory. Kweku was known for his laughter, bright, careless, like sunlight dancing on the stream. He could make even the elders smile. Every morning he fished beside his father. Every evening he played by the river's edge, skipping stones, chasing crabs, singing to himself. But Kweku had a secret. Sometimes when the river was quiet, he spoke to it, and sometimes it answered. His mother would scold him. Kweku, the river is no friend. Water gives life, but it can take it too. He would smile and toss a pebble. Then I will only speak to its gentler side. But that night, when the moon rose red and full, the river was anything but gentle. Long before Kweku was born, his grandmother had made a bargain with that same river. Her only child was dying. She begged the river for mercy. The river answered, "When the moon bleeds red, your bloodline will return what is owed." Her child lived, but she never spoke of it again. She thought the river had forgotten. But rivers never forget. Now her grandson played too close to the edge. The wind fell silent. The drums stopped. Even the fire refused to burn. Then, a whisper. "Do you remember me, little one?" Kweku froze. He turned toward the water. The river shimmered, and a woman's face appeared on its surface, calm, ancient, sorrowful. Before he could move, the water reached for him and pulled him under. He opened his eyes and found himself in another world. Fish floated through the air. Trees grew upside down. The sky rippled like liquid glass. Then she appeared, the river woman, eyes clear as crystal, voice like flowing water. "You have come to pay a forgotten debt." "I don't understand," Kweku said. "You will," she whispered. "But first, you must remember what your grandmother promised." He tried to remember, but his thoughts began to slip away. His father's face, gone. His mother's voice, gone. Even his own name, fading. "Please," he begged, "don't take everything." "I take only what is owed," the river said. And as she turned, the current rose, softly singing, as it carried away his laughter, his joy, his childhood. Days passed. The villagers searched, but there was no sign of Kweku. Only his fishing net, floating gently by the reeds. But one girl refused to stop. Amma, his closest friend. She remembered his words. "If you ever can't find me, follow the river's song." So she did. That night, beneath the blood-red moon, Amma stood by the riverbank and began to sing. Her voice trembled at first, but then it grew stronger. The water stirred. Ripples turned to waves. And slowly Kweku rose from the depths. His eyes were open, but empty. "Kweku," she cried. He blinked. Who is Kweku?" Her heart broke, but she didn't stop singing. She poured a calabash of palm wine into the water and said, "Let memory return with what was given. He is no debt, he is a child." The river stilled. A deep voice answered, "A promise must be replaced with another. What will you offer?" Amma did not hesitate. "Take my memories instead." And the water sighed, a sound like sadness and peace combined. Then she vanished beneath the waves. Morning came. The villagers found Kweku lying by the riverbank, alive. He smiled, but his eyes were lost in thought. He remembered nothing. Only a faint melody lingered in his heart, a song without words. Amma was never seen again. Some say she became the guardian of the river. Others say she walks in dreams, singing to those who have forgotten themselves. Years passed. Kweku grew into a man. He married, had children, and often sat by that same river. When his children asked why he smiled at the water, he said softly, "Because sometimes what you lose in memory, you gain in heart." And when the moon turned red again, the river did not whisper threats. It sang, gently, like a promise finally kept. They said Kweku forgot everything that night, but the river never forgets. Sometimes when the air grew heavy and still, he'd hear a hum beneath the water, a melody without words, pulling at something deep inside him. The elders warned him to stay away, But the river had already marked him, and it was patient. Years passed. The boy became a man. He built his hut far from the banks, married a woman named Abina, and had 2 children who laughed the way he once did. But peace never came easily to him. Each dream carried the scent of water. Each morning left him with wet footprints near the mat. And sometimes in his sleep, he whispered a name he didn't remember. Amma. Abina never asked who Amma was. She only prayed louder. One season the rains refused to stop. The river swelled, swallowing the farmland. Villagers said the water was reclaiming what was once stolen. Kweku stood by the edge one night, watching lightning crack over the water. And there he saw her. A woman made of light and current. Her hair flowing like liquid glass. Her eyes soft, sad, familiar. Kweku, she said. He froze. No one had called him that name in years. You know me? He whispered. The river woman smiled faintly. I knew you before you were born, and long after you are gone, I will still know your name. He trembled. Why did you take her? Why Amma? The water rippled. She offered what you could not. Memory for memory. Love for love. He fell to his knees. Then take mine. Take what's left. Just bring her back. The storm grew louder, but the voice remained calm. It's too late for that, child of water, but you can still finish what she began. Kweku felt the ground tremble beneath his feet. A pulse, like a heartbeat, moved through the soil. The river shimmered red. Then, for the first time since he was a boy, he remembered the song, the promise, the debt, and one more thing. Amma's face smiling in the rain. They say when a man remembers what was taken, the river listens. That night the water glowed like fire, and Kweku stood at its edge, barefoot and trembling, as the wind whispered a name through the trees. Amma? He closed his eyes. He could feel her, not as a memory, but as something living inside the river. The village had gathered behind him, torches flickering in the rain. They feared what he might do. They feared what the river might take. But Kweku only said, no more running. The debt ends tonight. He waded into the water, each step colder, heavier, older. When the current reached his chest, the river spoke again. You cannot end what you did not begin. Kweku looked up. I am not my grandmother's sin. I am her redemption. The river fell silent. Then the surface shimmered, and the water parted. From its depths rose faces. Men, women, children, all lost to memory, their eyes filled with forgotten songs. Kweku's voice broke. What do you want from me? The river woman appeared once more, her voice both sorrow and peace. Not what we want, what you still owe. She lifted her hand. Light surged through the current. Visions poured into his mind. Amma singing beneath the moon, her hands reaching out, her voice fading into the deep. Kweku wept. Then let me take her place. The river hesitated. Would you remember her if you did? He paused, then smiled faintly. No, but maybe that's the point. The current rose around him, embracing him like arms long lost. Then everything went still. When the villagers dared to open their eyes, the storm had gone. The river was calm, and on its surface, a single lily floated, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Days later they found Kweku asleep by the shore, alive, peaceful. He had no memory of who he was, but he kept humming that same song, the one Amma had sung long ago. From that night, the river of memory changed. No longer cursed, no longer cruel. It became a mirror, a place where love outlived loss, and every name taken by time was sung back into the world through water. And far away, beneath the still heart of the river, two voices sang together once more, not as ghosts, but as a promise finally kept. Because sometimes, the only way to end a curse is to remember why it began. Years passed like ripples on water, and the story of Kweku and Amma became legend. The people of Anyaba no longer feared the river. They sang beside it. They called it Nsuo Anadeso, the river of hope. But the river, it still remembered. It always remembers. One morning when the mist kissed the hills, a child was born beside the riverbank. Her name was Esi. From the day she could walk, she would crawl to the edge of the water and listen as if it spoke to her. Her mother laughed. Child, what are you listening to? And Esi smiled. The river's stories. At night when everyone slept, Esi would whisper to the current, and the current would whisper back. softly like a lullaby made of memory. Sometimes she heard two voices, one deep and warm, the other bright and kind. She didn't know it yet, but the voices were Amma and Kweku, bound forever to the song of the river. Then one season the skies darkened again. The river began to rise, restless and wild. The people panicked. "The curse has returned," they cried. "The river wants another life." But Iasai, still small, still brave, stepped forward. "No," she said quietly. "The river is only remembering too much." She placed her hand upon the swirling current, and for a moment, everything stopped. In the water, faces shimmered. Kweku, Amma, Kojo, smiling, watching. Then Amma's voice came, soft as breath. "Little one, will you carry what we could not?" Iasai nodded. "I will." The storm grew louder, but so did her song. She sang the same melody that had once saved Kweku, the song that had given Amma peace. And the river answered, not with rage but with release. The clouds broke, the wind softened, and the flood became calm as glass. The villagers fell to their knees. They said, "The river has found its keeper again." From that day, Iasai was no longer just a child. She was the voice of the river, the bridge between memory and mercy. When she walked, flowers bloomed where her feet touched the soil. When she spoke, the water glimmered in reply. And every night before she slept, she would whisper to the river, "Rest now. I remember for you." Because sometimes, peace is not silence. It is the sound of memory, finally singing itself free. Iasai grew old. Her hair turned silver, like moonlight resting on calm water. She no longer sang as often, but when she did, the river still shimmered. Children gathered around her hut each evening, their eyes wide, their hearts open. They called her Nana Iasai, the voice of water. She would smile and say, "No, my children, the river is the voice. I'm only its echo." Each night she told them stories of Kweku, the boy who lost his memory, Amma, who gave hers away, and Kojo, who sang love back into the river. The children would gasp and whisper, "Are they real, Nana?" Iasai would close her eyes, listening to the current outside her hut. "As real as your heartbeat," she'd say, "because stories are how the river remembers us." But among the children was one who stayed behind, long after the others went home. Her name was Amina. Quiet, curious, fearless. "Grandmother Iasai," she whispered one night, "does the river still keep secrets?" Iasai smiled, eyes glimmering like wet stone. "Yes, child. The river always keeps one secret more than it should." That night, while everyone slept, Amina crept to the riverbank. The moon was full, bright, watchful, and old. She leaned close to the water and asked, "What do you hide?" The river stirred. Its surface rippled, and in its depths she saw faces. Kweku, Mama, Kojo, Iasai. And then, beyond them all, a voice older than time itself whispered, "Child of the story, come closer." Amina trembled. "Who are you?" The voice replied, "I am the first river. Before memory I was. Before stories I flowed. I only wish to be remembered." Amina ran back to Iasai, breathless. "The river spoke to me," she cried. Iasai held her close and smiled gently. "Then it has chosen its next keeper." When Iasai passed away, the river glowed faintly under the moonlight, as if mourning her. The villagers said they heard a soft song in the water that night, a melody without words. And when Amina grew older, the storms obeyed her whispers. When floods threatened the land, she would stand by the water and say, "I remember," and the river would calm. Because that is what keepers do. They remember what others forget. They carry the song of those before them. And so, the story continued. The river had found its next voice, and the world, for a while, was still. Generations passed. Villages rose and vanished. Names were forgotten. But the river remembered. It sang in secret, its melody woven into the wind, into rain, into the breath of those who still listened. Fishermen heard it at dawn, a faint hum beneath their oars. Mothers washing clothes by the bank felt its rhythm in the ripples, and children skipping stones sometimes stopped, because the water seemed to whisper back. No one remembered Kweku, the boy who lost his memory. No one remembered Amma, who gave hers away. Kojo's songs faded into old tales, and Iasai's name became a legend told by firelight. But somewhere deep beneath the surface, their voices still lingered, woven into the current like threads of light. And when the moon turned red again, the river did not demand, nor curse, nor take. It sang, not in sorrow, but in remembrance. A traveler once stood by that river. He said he heard something, a song of love, loss, and peace. He couldn't find where it came from, but it stayed with him long after he left. And when he told the story, another traveler listened, then another, and another, until the story flowed once more, like the river itself. Because stories never die, they flow. Love outlives memory, and what is given in love is never lost. It becomes the river that carries us all.